Hello friends, and welcome back to the Mothership. Today we are checking out my Grilla Grills Power Station. Let's get started. So before we get started, it's worth pointing out, I paid for this with my own money. Grilla Grills did not sponsor this video in any way, so all the thoughts and opinions are 100% my own. This product is advertised as running your Grilla Grill smoker for about 10 hours. And honestly, as long as whatever particular device you want to use draws less than 300 watts, it'll run that too. The thing weighs about 10 pounds. It's pretty small for what it really is, and I was actually kind of shocked at how little it is and how light it is. So for its intended use of camping or moving it around, it's actually kind of perfect. Now on the front here, we have 220 volt outlets, we have two USB ports, we have a USB-C port, we have whatever the thing that you plug in your car, and then we have two DC ports. And it's worth knowing that all of these can be run independently, so you can have multiple things plugged in at once. It'll just end up running more power. On the back, it also has a handy dandy little LED light, which isn't the brightest thing ever, but it might be kind of use actually when you're out in the woods just to see where the thing is. Now, as far as turning it on, you just push one of the power spots. You can run them all, like I said, independently, so you can have just the USBs on, just the 120 volts, excuse me, or any of this DC stuff. It has a nice LED screen, which tells you how much power output, how much time remaining, and like a percentage of where you're at. It is really worth noting that's kind of cool that you can actually plug this in while it's running, so you can charge it while it's running, which is great for a smoker. So if you realize, oh crap, I'm getting to the end of my cook, but I still need a little more juice, you can plug it in and charge it and run your smoker through this without having it go through the start cycle again. Now I guess the biggest question for this product is who's it for and what is it supposed to do? I personally bought it for really two things. Number one, I thought it'd be really cool to have a battery box so I can run my portable smoker when I go camping or up to hunting camp and not have to worry about finding a place to plug it in. And number two, I thought it'd be kind of nice for competitions to not have to lug around a gas generator, or at least not have to run it all the time, and not have to have a $3,000 battery pack. You could have it run for about 10 hours, then you could turn on that gas generator or plug it into your truck and have it juice up a little bit before you keep going with the rest of your cook. This probably would also be really useful if you used your smoker out on a boat, or if you live in a place that loses power pretty often and you don't want to go through that startup cycle again. I could see it being really useful in a lot of applications. As far as price on the thing, right now Grilla Grills is charging $300 for it, but I have seen it on sale down to about $250. So it's not the cheapest item, but it's definitely a lot cheaper than some of those other massive battery packs. But what's really important is actually how it performs. So let's go outside, plug the smoker in, and see how the Grilla performs. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug it in, I'm gonna turn it on, see it's at 100%, and let's give it a go. I'm gonna turn on to 180 degrees. Everything is started up. You can see that on our initial startup we're 209 watts. This thing has about a 300 watt requirement. Actually don't know if you can see that just because it's an LED, but it's showing 209 on our startup procedure. This thing can do 300, which means that starting up the OG has zero issues. It's kind of nice that it tells me my time remaining based on this wattage. If I had this running at 207 watts the whole time, it's saying that I would only be able to go for 1.4 hours. So let's see how it does when it's actually up to temp. All right, we are past the startup stage. I'm at 150 degrees. We still get another 30 degrees to get it up to temperature, but the startup has stopped. And you can see that our power output is about 23. I think I saw it spike to 40, but it's between 40 and 23. It seems pretty steady at around somewhere in that area. And it's saying that we have about 10 hours. So you're probably looking at, if it doesn't need to start up again, we're probably gonna get, let's be conservative and say 9 hours of runtime at this current rate, which again, we're not at temperature, we are still moving up. Let's see what happens if we bump the temperature up and it draws any more power, or if it is going to continue saying it's going to run for about 10 hours. I bumped our smoker up to 225 degrees and it is pretty stagnant at that temperature. So we've reached full temperature. And as you can see, the output time is actually higher. We're at 11.2 hours drawing on 23 watts. I think that bump up to 40 that it was doing before was probably because it was still trying to get to temp. But right now, since we're kind of in a holding pattern, no, I think every time the auger moves, it's drawing more power, which makes more sense. So I don't know what this will even out to, but when it's just sitting there not moving, it's 11. When it's moving, we're down to what, 6? I think we're gonna have to run this completely until it runs out of battery and see actually how long it takes, which means I might be doing a very long cook. But those are the two temperatures that I use the most, 180 and 225. Let's bump it up to like 350 and see if it changes significantly. I have it stable at about 350 degrees, and we're kind of looking at the same. It seems like just in running mode, this goes between 20 and 40 watts, which gives us an output of between 10 hours, and I've seen it go as low as 6 hours. So I think it's kind of agnostic to the temperature you have it set at, but every time that auger moves, it is of course going to draw more power. So I think the real test will be when I actually turn this on and have it run for an entire smoke at like 225 or 300 and see how long it actually lasts. But as far as just running, it does seem to indicate that it's going to last quite a while, at least long enough to do ribs if you're running at 350, which I've never done. But at 225, I might get the full 10 hours out of it. Worth finding out, but it seems to be running just fine right now, no hiccups. So for my second test, and honestly one of the major reasons I bought this product, was to run my portable Pit Boss smoker on this thing at hunting camp and on camping trips. I took it out a few weeks ago to smoke up a tri-tip in brisket style, which is a longer cook. And I'll be honest, the results were actually pretty poor. So the Pit Boss is on the lower end of quality for pellet smokers. And to be honest, it has a harder time maintaining temperature, which means that auger is running a lot more. So unfortunately, unlike the Grilla Grills, which is running somewhere between 20 and 40 watts, even at higher temperatures, the Pit Boss was running closer to 50, 60, 70, 80 through the entire cook. So that auger was constantly spinning. It was constantly trying to maintain temperature. This meant that it only ran for about 3 or 4 hours before it completely died. And this wasn't exactly a cold day. This was pretty hot. So just the fact that that auger kept running on this machine made it have a lot more issues. So what this really means, if you are trying to buy this to run your smoker, you really need to check the power usage for your particular device before you go out and buy a box like this. That means go to Harbor Freight, Home Depot, get a power watching device, that plugs into the wall, then you plug your machine in, and it'll tell you how many watts are going through it. If it's under 200 or around 200 at startup and under 50 for the duration of the cook, you're probably in the clear. But if you're at 200, anywhere really above 60, you're gonna have a problem getting the full 10 hours out of this machine. Now I have run some other higher end big smokers. For example, the Yoder was running about 50 as it was going through the cooking procedure and 200 startup. So this would get you that 10 hours or close to it on a better machine. But on a lower quality machine, you might have some issues. That being said, if you're using this with any Grilla product, they do say 10 hours. So that should mean that their lowest quality or the cheapest one, the Chimp, or their Silverback or the OG should all work just fine. And based on my findings, the Yoders seem to work fine as well. Now I have actually used this device for things other than just running a smoker. I was at a pig roast last weekend, and rather than running an extension cord all the way through the backyard out to the pit, we plugged the spit into this device. Honestly, running at 15 watts, this probably would have gone 13, 14 hours, and it had more than enough power for us to run the entire pig roast off of it. So you absolutely can run other things off of this battery pack, but if you're trying to run something like an electric grill that's using over 300 watts, you're out of luck. But smaller stuff, or even just powering up devices, I've used this to charge all kinds of things from my camera to my cell phone to a Milwaukee charger, and all that has worked just fine on here. Now the last thing I really want to check on this thing is how long it takes to charge it. As you can see, we're at like 99%, we're pretty much full. I'm going to drain it completely, then we're going to plug it in just a standard wall socket and see how long it takes to get all the way up. 0%, about as dead as you can get. So let's plug her in and let's see how long it takes to charge. And there we have it, 100%. Looking at my stopwatch, we're at 3 hours and 20 minutes. So let's close out this review. On my OG Grilla, I really think it does what it claims it's going to do. I think it would actually run for 10 or more hours if I'm running at 180 or 200 degrees. Obviously, when that auger has to move more, it's going to draw more power and it's going to lower the time the thing's actually going to run for. If you're in a competition where you're doing something like smoking pork butts or ribs, this will probably get you through the whole cook. If you're doing like a brisket, you're probably going to have to charge this thing midway through your cook. But what is nice is you can plug it in and charge it while it's running, so you might not have that issue, especially if you have a backup generator or a truck that you can plug it in, or an extension cord. Now obviously the biggest killer here, and the thing that impacted me, is you really got to check out your smoker. I tried to run a non-Grilla smoker, which obviously ran a lot more power, probably because of that thin steel and just the way that thing is designed, but it ran a lot more power and it cut down my usability of this product pretty significantly. I did get a few hours out of it, so I guess if you are using it to cook up like some burgers and maybe some chicken wings that aren't going to take you 5-6 hours, it is going to get the job done for that. but you're gonna have to charge it, especially if you're out for a long weekend. It's not going to go through, multiple cooks. You're gonna have to plug it in at some point. No, I'm not super upset about that because honestly, I was planning on upgrading my portable smoker anyways. This just gives me an excuse to move ahead with that decision a little bit faster than I wanted to, and I'm just gonna look for a good deal and probably pick something up quickly. And you find yourself looking for a reasonably well-priced battery that's a nice size, it's pretty portable, and it will charge other things, you really can't go wrong with this. And to be honest, being able to find other devices to run off of it, whether that's just a laptop or some speakers or your phone, or a rotisserie in my case, that's just gravy. So anyways, I hope you guys got something out of this. If you like this type of content, do me a favor and give me a like down below. We'll be back for our regular scheduled cooks in the future, and as always guys, cook some fantastic. Take it easy.